I don't really know how to say this in a clean way, so I'm just going to say it. A lot of us feel behind. Not in a dramatic, everything is over kind of way, just behind. Like everyone else is moving forward and you're standing still. And the strange part is, nothing specific happened. There wasn't a moment where someone officially told you that you're failing. There wasn't a notification saying you're not doing enough. It just kind of happens slowly, quietly. You notice people posting new jobs, new cities, new relationships, new accomplishments, new milestones. At first, you scroll past it without thinking much. It feels normal. That's just what people do online. But then you see it again, and again, and again. And without realizing it, something begins to shift in the background of your mind. Not loudly, not dramatically, just a small thought forming over time. And that's what makes it complicated, because it doesn't feel like you chose to compare yourself. It feels automatic. You open your phone for a few minutes, and suddenly you're inside hundreds of other lives. Their best moments, their highlights, their carefully chosen angles, the version of themselves they decided to share. And then you close the app and return to your own life, your actual room, your actual day, your actual progress, which doesn't look like a highlight reel. It looks ordinary. It looks unfinished. It looks like something still developing. And that contrast can quietly mess with your perception if you're not aware of it, because your brain doesn't naturally distinguish between curated moments and full reality. It just registers difference. It just sees distance. And if you stare at that distance long enough, it can start to feel like failure. Most of us didn't consciously decide we were behind. We didn't wake up one day and declare it. We absorbed it gradually. A little comparison here, a little pressure there, a constant stream of updates about what people our age are achieving. The culture moves fast. Everyone talks about accomplishments, deadlines, age milestones, what you should have by now, what you should be building, what you should already know. And somewhere in that noise, you start to feel like there's a timeline you're supposed to be on. But nobody handed you that timeline directly. It's something you inherited from your environment, from social expectations, from the internet, from exposure to thousands of other paths all at once. And when you're not hitting the same checkpoints as others, it can start to feel personal, like something is wrong with you, like you missed something important. But here's something that doesn't get talked about enough. Most people who look like they have everything figured out are still figuring things out. They just don't show the uncertainty. They don't post their confusion. They don't upload their doubt. You're seeing the outcome, not the process. So it's easy to assume you're the only one improvising, but you're not. A lot of people are navigating life without a fully drawn map. The difference is visibility. Some people's journeys are just more visible than yours. And visibility can distort perception. When you see thousands of people achieving things in different areas every day, your brain starts comparing you to all of them at once. That's not a realistic comparison, but it happens anyway. And over time, repeated exposure can slowly turn into self-judgment. Not because you lack ability, not because you aren't working, but because you're constantly consuming progress without context. And when context is missing, your mind fills in the gaps with assumptions. Another thing that makes this heavier is that we rarely talk about the middle phase. Everyone talks about growth, about motivation, about success, but very few people talk about the in-between, the space where you're not who you used to be, but you're also not where you want to be. That space feels uncomfortable. It feels uncertain, and uncertainty can be misinterpreted as failure if you don't understand it properly. But uncertainty isn't failure, it's transition. And transition doesn't always look impressive from the outside. It doesn't usually come with applause. It looks like thinking. It looks like trying something and adjusting. It looks like exploring. It looks like days that feel quiet and uneventful. And because it's quiet, it's easy to underestimate. But most meaningful change doesn't announce itself. It builds gradually beneath the surface. Sometimes what we label as falling behind is really just not having clarity yet. And clarity doesn't operate on a universal schedule. Some people find direction early, some find it later. That doesn't mean one group is better, it just means timing differs. Life isn't actually a synchronized race, even though it can feel like one because of how much we can see now. Before, you didn't have constant access to everyone's milestones. You lived your life, and unless someone told you directly, you didn't compare yourself to hundreds of strangers daily. Now you can scroll and see achievements from people across the world in minutes. That changes how your brain evaluates progress. Normal development can start to feel slow when it's constantly measured against highlight after highlight. But slow progress is still progress. Growth doesn't have to be loud to be real. A lot of honest growth happens quietly, learning what you don't want, adjusting your habits, trying something new and refining it, recovering from mistakes, changing direction. That process might not look dramatic, but it's active. And being active in your own development matters more than appearing ahead. It's also worth admitting that many of us are still figuring out what we care about, still adjusting, still experimenting. That isn't something to be ashamed of. It's part of being human. We don't all arrive at certainty at the same age. change. Some people are rebuilding, some are exploring, some are changing paths, and that process can feel messy. But messy doesn't mean broken, it just means in motion. If you're in a phase where things feel unclear, that doesn't automatically mean you're behind everyone else. It might just mean you're in a quieter chapter. And not every chapter is designed to look exciting. Some chapters are for reflection, some are for foundation building, some are for internal growth that no one else sees yet. And those chapters matter just as much as the visible ones. Instead of fighting comparison every time it appears, try noticing it. Just observe it without judging yourself. Notice when it shows up. Notice what triggered it. Notice how it makes you feel. When you see it clearly, it loses some of its power. Awareness creates distance between you and the thought, and that distance allows choice. And maybe instead of asking why you aren't further along, you can ask what you're building right now. That question shifts focus. It brings attention back to your own path instead of everyone else's. Even if what you're building feels small, it still counts. Progress doesn't have to be dramatic to matter. Consistency over time creates real change. And keeping going, even without perfect clarity, is itself meaningful. You don't have to match anyone else's pace. Your life isn't required to move at the speed of someone else's highlight reel. You just need to continue in your direction, step by step, without abandoning yourself because of comparison. Not perfectly, not urgently, just steadily enough that you don't give up on your own process. And maybe that's enough for now.